Let me just apologize ahead of time. My allergies are hitting me hard right now, so if I sound weird or stuffed up or nasally, that's why. What's up, guys? It's Pliskin here, and I've been noticing something with Halo Infinite. I noticed it right from the start, but I couldn't really put my finger on it. Normally, when I play a game that I really like and I have thoughts about its sandbox, I make a video almost immediately. Case in point with Far Cry 6. However, Halo Infinite's sandbox confused me, and it took me a very long time to start to understand it. You see, I was going by the basis of the fundamentals set in Halo Combat Evolved, that being your kinetic weapons for health damage and your plasma weapons for shield damage. Halo Infinite doesn't really work like this. I mean, it kind of does, but then it doesn't. It's gonna be very difficult not to go trailing off into a way that confuses everyone. So I'm just going to walk you through my process of understanding this sandbox and figuring out what the hell it is and whether or not it's any good. So let's get right on into it.
Let's go.
Now, Halo Infinite is what I'm gonna call a multi-layered sandbox. What does that mean, Pliskin? Well, on the one hand, we have 4 basic categories, well, technically 5 basic categories for the weapons. We have the kinetic weapons, then we have our plasma weapons, then we have electric weapons, then we have our hard light weapons, and then as a bonus category, we have our power weapons or explosives. We have the Spanker, the Hydra, the explosive coil, the regular grenade, the brute turret, the skewer. However, trying to take apart this sandbox and understand it from just looking at these 5 categories isn't enough. Because of this, 2 plasma weapons might be in the category of plasma, however they might do 2 very different things and have more in common with a hard light or kinetic weapon than they would other plasma weapons. Let me explain. You see, among those 5 categories, we also have another layer of categories. That being your shield strippers, your health damage, your precision weapons, and your boom/what is shields in hell broken kind of power weapons. Now that's confusing. Extremely confusing. Like, what is this sandbox? It's not single purpose because there are multiple guns that do the same thing. For example, the Commando, the Stalker Rifle, and the VR-75 are all precision weapons meant to be aimed at the head to take down your enemy with maximum efficiency. But then it's not a level up system because the guns still have enough identity to be equally viable or have enough different from each other to feel distinct. For example, the Sniper and the Shock Rifle. Both are snipers that you can use to shoot people in the head, however the Sniper Rifle is more so of a power weapon in the sense that it hits really hard, and the Shock Rifle falls into the role of a utility weapon in the sense that you can snipe, but you can also strip shields or disable vehicles. So if it's not level up and it's not single purpose, what is this? How do we even approach a multi-layered sandbox when it comes to categorizing it? Well, in order to make this a lot easier to understand, I feel like we should stop looking at Halo for a second and instead look at Metal Gear Solid 5. Like Halo Infinite, Metal Gear Solid 5 has a 2-layered category setup. So on the one hand, you have your lethals and non-lethals, your guns that will kill the enemy, and your guns that will immobilize your enemy. And on the other hand, you have your other 2 categories, which is guns that fall into the need for shot placement, and guns that do more stunning or aggressive damage that just knocks the enemy down. So for example, assault rifles, snipers, most pistols are all about accurate shot placement. And then your shotguns, your grenade launchers, your LMGs are all about area of effect damage or stunning. But there are non-lethal stun weapons, for example shotguns. And there's also non-lethal shot placement weapons, for example the MD-2000 sniper. And there's lethal stun weapons. Take the Hail Grenade Launcher, for example. And then there's lethal shot placements, like the AK. So when you're choosing your loadouts, you base it around lethal and non-lethal approaches, and you base it around stun/shot placement weapons, with the goal being to balance each other out. If I'm going to take the suppressed pump action stun shotgun, I might want to take a lethal sniper and or pistol for those situations where I might just have to kill a guy really fast, or where an aggressive approach would be more so appropriate. On the other hand, if I take a tranquilizer pistol, I might want to take a lethal assault rifle or a shotgun there to balance that out. The pistol's going to be doing that non-lethal shot placement role, whereas the shotgun or assault rifle will be doing the lethal stun or area of effect damage type of role. So you keep both of those layers, both of those different sets of categories in mind when you're setting up your weapons. So let's go ahead and apply this train of thought to Halo Infinite. It's no longer plasma for shields and kinetic weapons for, health, and then niche power weapons to add in variety. Instead, you're balancing weapons that belong to a multi-layer set of categories. Kinetic, plasma, shock, and hard light need to be balanced, but shield strippers, health stunners, precisions, and booms all need to be accounted for as well. So for example, a Ravager, the plasma weapon, will work as a shield stripper, which would be complemented nicely by a commando for unshielded enemies and precision headshots. And then you could add in a plasma or spike grenade for that boom effect, that kind of power weapon role that ignores both shields and health. A much more ludicrous example would be using a plasma pistol and a stalker. The plasma pistol serving as your shield stripper, and the stalker serving as your precision/health damage weapon. You see how this completely shits on the fundamentals that Halo Combat Evolved set? You have two plasma weapons here that, even though they belong to one category, plasma, completely deviate in purpose because of their secondary categories. So at this point, the first layer of distinctions, in most cases, doesn't even matter. If anything, it's those secondary categories, the precisions, the health/stun damage, the shield strippers, and then those boom overpowered weapon categories are more important than the base plasma, kinetic, hard light, and electric. Now, not to say that those first categories aren't important. I mean, mostly with electric is where we see the cleanest kind of distinction when it comes to those primary roles that those weapons play in that first category. But for the plasma weapons and the kinetic weapons, there's a lot of bleed through. And that's why, in terms of categorizing this game, I'd put it as a multi-layered weapon sandbox, just like Metal Gear Solid 5, but whereas I'd say Metal Gear Solid 5 more so leans towards the cleaner level-up system structure, Halo Infinite goes for that supersize me approach, where it's just too disorganized and there's too much to see a clear categorization for this sandbox. But just saying that I can't categorize it in one of the two categories that I usually put it in doesn't say whether or not this is a well-balanced sandbox. Because there's other games that take this supersize me approach that have decent sandboxes in both their campaigns and multiplayers. Titanfall 2 is a great example of that. So does Halo Infinite have a good or bad sandbox?
No, Escharum? I'm almost disappointed.
It works. The guns are overall pretty interesting and fun to use. Some are definitely better than others. For example, the Sentinel Beam is a high tier weapon and almost makes me feel like it's a level up sandbox, but that lack of clear hierarchy is what stops me from doing so. Because there are guns like the Sentinel Beam that's at the top, but the road we took to get there isn't very clear. It's flawed, it's bloated, and it really deviates from Halo's principles. Halo CE and Far Cry 3 still hold the benchmarks for the cleanest single-purpose or level-up systems respectively. Again, even Metal Gear Solid 5, which has an equally convoluted and bloated sandbox, still manages to present itself in a way where there's a very clear hierarchical progression, a level up system. You start off with guns that aren't really that good, and you're able to upgrade them and unlock better weapons, so that road to those weapons that are top tier are very clear. It's a very nice, clean sense of progression, and that makes it fun. Still, I wouldn't call Halo Infinite Sandbox unfun. It's not at all like Halo Reach, which I consider to be the worst sandbox in the series, where there are tons of enemies that will one-shot kill you, and you feel like you're pigeonholed into playing just with cheap weapons like the DMR, pistol, or the needle rifle. Because if you don't play Halo Reach, just shooting these enemies in the head from far away with your precision weapons, and you instead try to go for more varied strategies, for example, a plasma pistol and an assault rifle, you will be cheesed by elites with concussion rifles, elites that can just insta-kill you with one-framed melee attacks, grunts with fuel rod guns, and other really cheap enemies using really cheap weapons. I don't get that sense here in Halo Infinite. The weapons still feel like they give me a flow. It's not as good of a flow when I'm playing Halo Combat Evolved, where I can just recognize everything that I'm picking up and allot it with its given purpose and the enemies that it should be matched up against. But I can still pick up certain weapons in Halo Infinite and use them in diverse ways. I'm not stuck playing the game one certain way. And there are times where Halo Infinite can kind of hit that stride, and I'm once again in a flow similar to Combat Evolved. So it's a definite step up for the series. There's no insta-kills, you get these nice telegraphed moves if it is going to be something that can bring you close to an insta-kill, and again, you can use those diverse strategies. Still, the series balancing peaked with its first entry, and Halo Infinite, in the end of the day, is a supersize me, can't decide if it wants to be single purpose or level up system, and that is fundamentally flawed. Are there elements of the Halo Infinite sandbox that you really like? Are there some that you really hate? Do you want me to explain more why Reach's sandbox is garbage? Or do you want a full-length video explaining Metal Gear Solid 5 sandbox and give it as much attention as I've been giving Halo and Far Cry 6 and that kind of stuff? Let me know down in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. This has been Pliskin, over and out.